Hey everyone, welcome to Purpose Matrix. Just got done recording the discussion with Doug Borchers, and I tell you, it was fantastic. Doug's passion and knowledge for leadership and for his people come out throughout the entire episode. You're going to feel it and you're going to learn a lot from it. I know I did. He's going to tell you what his secret to leadership is. He learned at an early age and he's been applying it, but also how his leadership approach has evolved over time. He's going to talk about, he had a long corporate career and what he took from that. And really, if you're in a corporate role of any sort, the confidence you should have in either starting a business, running a business, having an impact on what you're doing, or supporting a small business, whatever it is. He talked about, he said maybe it sounds cliche to people, but just the important role of getting clear on mission, vision, and values as a leader. The goals of a leader, we often think results. Doug tells us what the goals should be. And then, Doug's been thinking about succession planning for a really long time, and what he's been doing strategically over the course of time to prepare for that. And finally, his, the major lessons from the first leadership or business book that Doug read. And, one of those, it was, spoiler alert, Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, but how Doug continues to sharpen the saw, continues to grow and get better and work on himself continuously. I learned so much from the episode. I think you're going to as well. Enjoy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Purpose Matrix. I am very excited for today's guest, a local legend, Doug Borchers. Doug, how are you doing today?
Doing good, Phil.
Well, I'm really excited to have you. Doug's a great guy, has really had a very, very successful career, but also success in a lot of areas of life. And more importantly, someone that's really just growth minded and always trying to get better himself. I know that from just getting to know him over the last couple of years. So I'm really looking forward to today's discussion. I know Doug has a lot of ideas and things that he can teach all of us. So I'm excited to learn. Doug, if you don't know Doug, president of Superior Aluminum out of Aroostook, Ohio, 19 years before that, 19 years as the VP at Dickman Supply. So a long history of success professionally for Doug, but also just serves a lot of people, gives on a lot of different types of boards. Sydney Rotary Club, Pickwick Country Club, Community Foundation, and others. And he's advisory board for different schools, a board of advisors for different business owners. And I've heard him talk about this, and not just what he can give and serve, but also what he's gotten from that. And that's through a company called Aileron. So as you can just hear from his introduction, really a giving person. Doug, I want to kind of step back and just hear your story and kind of how you evolved, how you grew, and, why are you doing all the things you're doing?
Well, if you're going way back, the foundation is basically faith. So I grew up I'm still moved back to a small German Catholic community where the church is the center of town. Faith is very important to everyone. Didn't know any different. My friends were all the same way. And, they all were all thankful for having that great foundation. In speaking of faith, I went to church every morning until I was a sophomore in high school because I wanted to. It started my day off correctly and got me focused on the right kind of things to kind of start my day. I'm kind of the little engine that could. Everybody reads that book when you're about 3 years old. So the good Lord gave me good skills in a lot of areas, but not great skills. And I think he did it to challenge me to be the best I could in whatever I chose to do. So some examples of that, I wanted to be the valedictorian in my class and studied pretty hard for 4 years of high school while a lot of people were having fun, and was able to accomplish that goal. In sports, I was at best an average high school basketball player. We were playing the sectional finals, and 4 seconds ago, we're down 1 point to Lehman, and I wanted the ball. And I told the coach in the huddle I wanted the ball, and we ended up winning that game by 1. Fast forward to college, I wanted to be a college baseball player, Division I college baseball player. Walked on the University of Dayton baseball team with a slightly above average fastball, and figured out how to get guys out. And was able to throw a no-hitter the last game of my career. It's the last game I've ever pitched.
Nice.
first 9 years, I worked for a Fortune 500 company.
Doug, I want to cut you off, and I told you I warned you I was going to do this, but I want to get into just a fun foundational concept from that, because the little engine that could, and I think what's important is there's talent and there's skill, and I think it's so important to separate those, because we are given natural talent sometimes, but we can develop skills. So if we're a phenomenal, we can be a phenomenal athlete, but we don't have the skill of baseball or basketball, right? We have to develop those. And I think that also can apply to our technical skills that we have in the workplace, but also leadership skills, for example. You hear people say, well, that person's just a natural leader. Maybe they have some natural leadership characteristics, but we all have different natural leadership characteristics, but all the other leadership characteristics can be developed. So I think what I'm hearing is, you had some level of talent, and you'd be humble, being too humble if you said you didn't have any, but you had some level of talent, but it just didn't stop there. Actually, there was a lot of work behind this development of skill that helped you achieve some of these things.
You have to have a strategy to win, and you have to be determined to be successful. So those two things come together. So no matter what it was academically, whether it was in sports, you got to have a goal. You got to figure out how to get there, and then you got to be determined to make it happen.
I love it. And I think the key is you're not going to have it originally. So once you have the goal, get clear on it and then work at it. So after college, you kind of started in the workforce. So take me through the rest of the story there.
Okay. I was fortunate to get hired by a really phenomenal Fortune 500 company. It's called Eaton Corporation, and had some good leadership, had some good training. And I was determined I was going to be the best there. So out of over 500 salespeople across the country, in year 3, I got a chance to stand up on stage at the National Sales Conference and win a National Salesperson of the Year award at the age of 25, which was pretty cool. And that led to a lot of opportunity with the company. They put me in a junior leadership training program where I got to go to headquarters once a quarter, sit in on strategic planning sessions with the C-level people, the CEO, CFO, CO, all the top corporate people. So for 3 years, I got a chance to have some higher level kind of training, which helped me a lot, and still does to this day. So was very well taken care of on the corporate, my first 9 years on the job. Unfortunately, when you're with corporate America, they moved me 3 times, and we got close enough to home the last time. My wife said, we're not moving anymore. And by then, I think we had 2, maybe 3 children. And I agreed with her. So we kind of put roots down. And that's, you mentioned, working for Dickman Supply for 19 years. They were actually, and still are, a distributor of the products that company makes. So I had a connection to them. They were one of the distributors that sold our products in the territory. And the owner and I sat down and said, let's make something happen. So yeah, a lot of opportunity along the way, when it comes to those kind of things. We were successful in that business. The owner, fantastic guy, treated me very well, gave me a lot of opportunity. We were successful in growing that business over 8 times in the 19 years I was there. And his philosophy was hire good people and get out of their way. And we were successful in building a tremendous team that just gelled together and had success in almost every endeavor we undertook.
Doug, I want to ask kind of 2 different things, but first of all, I love to hire good people, get out of the way. I think there's guardrails you give them, but the more you can get out of the way, I think the better, the more they'll grow, and that'll just support the growth of your business. But you worked in the corporate world for a long time. And I want to, this message would be for somebody that might be in the corporate world, or somebody, a small business owner that might be thinking about hiring different people, different demographics of people, or different sets of backgrounds. I actually had a discussion with a small business owner locally that there's so many people that grow up only within the business, but also then they're hiring some people with different corporate experience. How much, impact, or how much do you learn in that corporate environment that you can apply to kind of the, I'll say small business? Superior isn't too small anymore, but, in that small business, more entrepreneurial world, how much of that carried over?
I would say, if I had to do it again, I'd do it exactly the same way. There's a lot of foundational things that happen in the corporate world from a training standpoint. In small businesses, sometimes business owners kind of wing it because they may not know any better. Working in the corporate world kind of gave me some foundation on especially strategic type items and the need to develop your people. That was a big takeaway from that. And, the politics and the do whatever it takes to make your boss happy so he can make his boss happy, that kind of stuff that wasn't my bag. So as I moved up in the corporation, more of that had to happen if I wanted to move up. And again, the geography thing, it was a good time for me to leave, but the best possible place I could have been for those first 9 years.
Yeah. And I think what you said about the corporate world was so important. And I would just tell somebody that is been in that environment. First of all, if like you have purpose and meaning and you love what you do, like congratulate, that's fantastic. If you're thinking about something different, I would just tell you that the knowledge, the skills that you have learned in the corporate environment, if you can apply that to a small business, whether that's for a different company or for yourself, you will have so much valuable skill that you can apply elsewhere. So don't kind of shortchange yourself, because there's a lot of value that you can bring to a business, to other people, whoever it might be. I want to talk about kind of your leadership philosophy and approach, hire good people and get out of the way. Is it really that simple, Doug, or tell me more about that?
Yeah, it's not quite that simple, but yes, it starts with hiring good people. So we talk a lot about hiring for culture and training for skill. So we don't go out looking for who is the best technical person in this particular area. It's who's somebody that fits our culture, and we can train them how to do these type of things. And so I'll give you a quick example. We had an opening recently in our quotations department. We had a young man in our welding department who's just fantastic and very resourceful. His training has not been toward the office, toward anything office type job, but the right kind of culture person, the right opportunity came up. He's excelling in our takeoff quotations group because right kind of person and meshed with the culture that was in that particular group.
Yeah. I love that. And I think it ties great to, like, if you hire the right person that fits the culture, you talked about this for your own, like your younger days, but you had a clear goal, what you wanted. And then you kind of did the work and trained yourself. Well, in a professional environment, hire for culture, train for skill. I love that short kind of phrase. So Let me ask this, we've had some different discussions on business, leadership, philosophy, other things. Throughout your kind of story, what would you say, where did your mindset come from? Is that just, it was there as a young child or teen or, early professional days, or has that evolved over time? And if so, how?
Yeah, I think that's evolved over time. When you're right out of college and you're driven to succeed and you want to provide for your family and all those kind of things, a lot of that's about yourself. And you can succeed to a certain extent when it's just about yourself, and especially in a sales type job. But the farther you move up and the more, you get into other types of areas, it becomes more about the team and driving a successful team. So for me, it became less about myself and much more about how do we develop the team? How do we, use a Jim Collins term, put all the right people in the right seats on the bus? And that's what it's all about now versus what do I personally do to drive this area of success for the company.
Yeah. And I think, there's first Jim Collins. So the reference there, Jim Collins in the book, Good to Great, fantastic business book, but you can also apply to a lot of the principles to your life personally. And Doug, I know we're going to get a lot of different quotes from you throughout this because you're an avid reader. And actually, Doug, if you're interested, I don't know if he didn't give me permission to do this, but he has a weekly email that he sends to a lot of people with just an inspirational quote or leadership quote or business quote or faith quote or whatever it might be. So if you're interested in that, let us know and we can get you connected to that for Doug. What I was going to say is, so your mindset shifted over time. You referenced a book, but who helped, who a person helped form that? Was that a family member? Was that a leader at an organization? Who kind of helped you evolve your mindset and leadership approach?
Well, early on, it was my dad. My dad is the one that started this particular business where I work now. And so those kind of skills that my dad brought along, my dad's very strong faith, He's a hard worker. He's a big team player. So early on, it was my dad. You mentioned an organization earlier called Aileron. As I moved into leadership type roles, I got more involved with Aileron, got more involved with professional management. And that was a big game changer for me, that it wasn't about me and it wasn't about what I did. It's about how can the team succeed. And a lot of that I picked up reading various books, but especially through Aileron.
Yeah. And I think, Aileron's a group, and there's, you reference you're on different advisory boards, but also you have an advisory board there, I assume, and then also just different business coaches and leadership coaches. And I think no matter what position, if you're a president running a big company like Doug is, or you're a mid-level manager, or you're just, an entrepreneur that's hustling and getting it done yourself, surrounding yourself with a strong network of people, a board of advisors, if you will. This doesn't have to be, Aileron's a great organization. This doesn't have to be a high paid, board of advisors. Go find a couple of people that are in similar situations that just want to get better. I talked about this on a recent episode, that it's just one of the most impactful things you can do, because you see what other people are doing. You can learn from them and you can get direct feedback on what you're doing. So I appreciate that. And again, Aileron is out of the Dayton area, Tip City, but they support businesses all over the U.S. if you're interested in that. What would you say throughout your career it was the hardest, most challenging shift, pivot, decision you've had to make, whether that's with personnel, your own career moves, family to business dynamic? What are some really tough, courageous actions you had to take or decisions you had to make?
Well, the toughest decision I ever made was to take this job in the seat I'm sitting right now, because when I left home, when I graduated from high school, I said I'd never be back to this town and I would never work in the family business. It just didn't excite me. And I saw the work and what my dad went through, and just it wasn't something that I wanted to do. And even the day they called me and said, "Hey, we're interested in you coming back and working for the family business," I was not amenable to it and turned it down a number of times. So I would say that was the toughest decision, was taking this job. Turned out to be the best decision I ever made, because it's been very rewarding to watch the team succeed, to see the team members enhance their lives personally, the team members to grow. And as we've grown, it's opened up opportunities for people in other areas. So in the end, it's been very rewarding. But I had a great job. I had a great boss. We were growing the business. We were having fun. I had a lot of friends and connections in the industry, and it was tough to leave all that.
Do you think, I think 19 years at Dickman Supply, do you think that time was needed to prepare you for the role that you ultimately went into at Superior? Like, do you think you were ready 10 years earlier, or it just worked out the way it needed to work out?
I don't know if it was needed, but it was definitely very beneficial to be in a position where the way the owner treated it was, I was not an owner. I had no ownership, but he kind of allowed me to run the business like I was an owner and make good decisions for him if he wasn't around. So basically gave me general guardrails and let me kind of take some risks, go after some things, have a couple of failures, but learn from them, move forward. So yes, it was in retrospect, a great training tool for what I'm doing now.
So first of all, it's very, very interesting that you had a very influential owner that gave you kind of the reins, said, run with this, treated you as an owner, right? Mm-hmm. And then you said earlier in the discussion that that's how you're trying to treat people, right? You give them a little bit of guardrails, but you let them, empower them to lead the company and try to hire good people and stay out of the way, I think is how you said it.
Yeah.
I want to go back to, Superior, and, you were hesitant. You didn't want to come back to the family business. It didn't excite you, but now you kind of talked about the different things and really team member focus. But, at the deepest level, you're working hard, you're passionate, you're very engaged, energized about what you're doing. Why do you do it, Doug? Like, why do you do what you do?
It's again, I'll go back, and it's going to sound cliche, but it's about the team's success. I take great pride in watching people grow personally, grow within the organization. I take pride in the fact that that we're not scared to talk about faith. We you and I both know a wonderful man of leadership. His name's Father Nathan Cromley. Father speaks to our organization often when he's in the area, and we pray before our celebrations, our holiday meals, and I think it brings it a little bit more in focus for maybe some that didn't get the opportunity to grow up maybe the way you and I did. So for me, it's about I get satisfaction in the team satisfaction. Along the way, as we've grown, we've been able to make pay raises. For 5 straight years, we've gone up more and sometimes significantly more than the cost of living has been because we've been able to. We've been successful. The team is the ones that made it happen. We've been able to reward them with good bonuses and increases in pay. So as the tide rises, all boats float higher around here, and it's a pretty cool thing to see.
First of all, if you can't hear it and you're listening, you can hear and see the passion when Doug's talking about that. So check out the video on YouTube as well, because he, and I've had different discussions with Doug about this. Like, this gets him at his core. He really cares about this, and he really wants to see the organization be successful. And Father Cromley, who I had on the podcast, I don't know, probably 6 months or so ago, is also a mentor of mine and having a great impact with a lot of different businesses. You don't have to have a membership or anything. He just serves and helps support businesses and has opportunities for classes. And I would say the big thing about that is at the core of what you're doing, there's a deeper meaning and a deeper purpose. So whatever, for our listeners, if you're really passionate about something, if you're really strong in your faith, if you're really passionate about whatever it might be, if you can tie your business, if you can make the different areas of your life align to support each other, I think it can be so impactful, and it can just motivate you so much to go to work with a fire every single day, to make the right decisions, to lead on offense, to be courageous versus, having fear hold you back.
Sure.
So, and the other thing I said that I love is, or the other thing that you said, I just heard this morning on Craig Rochelle, who's a phenomenal leadership podcast and spiritual leader. But he said, if you want to be a good leader, there's kind of 3 different ways to do this. You said, I just love to see my team members grow. And what Craig Rochelle said is, you can coach and teach people on getting results. That's good. You can teach people, coach people on what they're doing. That's great. That's great. Or you can coach and lead people on who they're becoming. And that's what you need to be doing as a leader. And if you can help people see who they're becoming and that they're growing, I think that's the most rewarding thing for a leader and for that person. Doug, you're doing it. So just keep it up.
So just to comment on that, Phil,
yeah.
When you look back, get to be an old guy like me, you look back on your career and you think about what were those key moments or key people that helped me grow. That's what I think about, is those kind of people who made me, think about things a little more, pointed me in the right direction, spent a little time and cared about developing me. That's what it's all about. So I'm trying to do the same to, kind of return the favor.
You're doing it, Doug. You're doing it. I love it. So you put people first. You talked about that, but tell me a little bit more about let's get into some of the tactics. So let's talk leadership style. Yep. How are you, how do you engage the team? Just what does that look like?
Well, for us, it's very intentional and very strategic. So it all starts with, and it sounds cliche and a lot of people have it. It all starts with purpose. What's our purpose? And then we get into mission, vision, and values. Those become the filter for every decision we make. And when somebody says, why don't we just do this? Or why don't we do that? Or I think we ought to do it this way. We run it through that filter. And then we have a discussion about whether we're going to or not going to do it based upon our foundation. So it's very foundational from a mission, vision, values. And in fact, we wrote what we thought was a pretty good one 5 years ago. We're a different company today. We're almost 3 times bigger. We are in the process of revisiting mission, vision, and values. Is this correct? Does this apply to who we are today? And in fact, you mentioned Father Cromley. He sat in on our first brainstorming session while we were developing this. So we made sure with him in the room that we fully took into account everything we wanted in our values. And it It was very powerful. So yes, we're revisiting all that. So that's where it starts. It leads to, on a yearly basis, we call it a 3-year strategic plan. It really gets revisited late in the year every year, and a new 3-year strategic plan gets written. We take a full look at what's going on in the marketplace, what's happening with competitors, what's happening with our customers, what tastes and architectural designs are evolving, all those kind of things. We do a very deep study of that, and we combine that then with where do we want to go, what kind of things do we want to do, and it's a very meticulous process that we go through every year. It takes us over a month to put this plan together. But when the plan is done, now it becomes a living document. So you and I have talked about this in the past. We chose a process called 4 disciplines of execution. We focus on what's wildly important. We act on the lead measures of things that need to be done. We've got scoreboards around here that show where are we based upon those type of things. And we try to have some fun with that. And we create a regular cadence of accountability of who's responsible for what, and report outs on a weekly basis of where are we on the important things that your group is supposed to be doing to push us toward that plan. So it's very intentional. It's not like, hey, I think we ought to do this. Yeah, let's do that this year, and everybody go their own merry way. It's very intentional, and things happen because they're planned and they're followed through.
4DX, 4 Disciplines of Execution, is a great book. There's a lot of different books and models for strategy deployment, but 4DX is great. And, first of all, wildly important versus the whirlwind is what 4DX talks about. And so often we're caught up in the day-to-day and the tactical, and we're focused on the urgent and unimportant. And the wildly important helps us focus on the non-urgent but very important is a way to think about it. And then what I like is the important, and by the way, this all applies to your business, to your small business, to your team at work, to your personal lives as well. But we want to define the outcomes we want. You talked about that with mission, vision, and values. Once we define that, we need to understand the lead measures. So 4DX, the lead measures that get us to those outcomes or give us the best chance to get those outcomes. And we need to measure ourselves on the lead measures, who we are and what we're doing. And if we're not getting the outcome, that's feedback for us to change what we're doing. But don't get caught up in not hitting the outcome. Look, we're business people. We want results. I get it. And we should. And we need to define that. But we need to get clear on the work. We just got to put the work in. Just like early in your career, in your early days, if you put the work in, you'll get the results. And the more we can get clear on what it takes to get those results, focus on wildly important, I think we can be successful. And I think, by the way, it's interesting that when I asked about your leadership style, the number one thing you talked about is really purpose, mission, vision, values. Mm-hmm. If as a leader of a company, you're not doing those things, I think we're missing it. And it's so easy for us to get caught up in the day-to-day and the tactics and prove we can do those things because we've probably done those before. But we got to get out of that. We have to get clear on providing the vision and just setting up the process and the systems or providing that so the team can run with it.
100%.
So Doug, I want to stay on the kind of 3-year plan. By the way, the 3-year plan is also good. And you said that you revisit it. You change your 3-year plan every year, which I also, the model we use is also the same. Like you build a 3-year plan, you run at that, but then reset that every year because things are changing in your business. And like you said, over the last 5 years, there's been so much change that your 3-year plan from 6 years ago would almost be completely irrelevant. So with where you're at, Doug, and kind of as you think about the next several years and moving forward, how do you define success? Whether that's like, how can we be successful in 2025, or how can Doug Borchers be successful? How do you define that? How do you think about that?
Well, it starts with what we just talked about. Continued focus on a strategic plan. I've got to continue to make sure that we as a company are doing the things necessary, not being complacent. One of the things that happened here years ago, this was a business that my father ran for 40 years, and it had some pretty good growth. There was not maybe the best handoff from him to second generation members of his partner's family. And they were all good people, all good business people. But they thought their job was to keep doing what we're doing because we're a successful business. So there was no new products. There was no new markets, no new customers, no new ways of doing things because we've been successful doing things this way. We're going to continue that happening. And the company was still successful. Don't get me wrong, but it kind of flatlined because the company wasn't kind of keeping up with what was going on. So for me, it's not being complacent about where we are. Sit back and say, wow, look at us. Look what we've done. We're really cool. We just, nobody around here thinks that way anymore. It's what do we need to be doing to drive the next area of success? So that's first and most important. Then the second is kind of what I alluded to. I'm 2 years from a part-time role and 5 years from a full-time role, full-time retirement. And we're working on that already actively now, succession planning. How can I lead better through others? Do I need to be doing the things I'm doing, or can we start transitioning some of those things now so that we can have some time as it falls in other hands and talk about those things together? And I'm convinced, because the people that are going to succeed me are so unbelievable people. They will take this company to a whole nother level that it doesn't even dream of now and can't think about, because they got old fuddy-duddy guys in their 60s running the business right now. These guys are young, energetic, great ideas, given some proper guardrails and financial tools. I'm excited about where this thing's going to go. So that's my second thing, is I got to make sure we do succession planning right. I've got a little less than 2 years to get that done to a part-time role, but I'll still be in here 15, 20 hours a week for another 3 years after that.
There's statistics on this. I don't know the exact ones, but so many businesses make it to the second generation and fail in the third generation. And succession planning and setting it up right, keeping the family or whomever it is motivated and engaged, they're all different challenges. Doug, when should someone, first of all, and there's people listening to this and I just want to get the business started versus succession planning, but when should people be thinking about this? I mean, in your opinion, when is the right time to start thinking about succession planning?
I'm kind of a weirdo, but we started this at my first board meeting 9 years ago. We started talking about succession planning. They're like, are you kidding me? We're going to talk about this? And I said, yeah, we've got to start talking about this now so that we're ready when it happens. Hopefully it's a planned period of time. If it's not, at least we're ahead of the game. So what that's allowed us to do is I encouraged one of these individuals to get his MBA. He's since finished his MBA, got a much more foundational business view on making decisions now. He's now our vice president of operations, fantastic individual. And he and a couple of the other candidates who are all third generation members, they've been doing a significant amount of training. We mentioned Aileron earlier. They've been taking professional management type classes, conscious leadership type classes, that they understand the effect of some of the things they say and do and think, how to read others. They've been doing a lot of that type of thing. And including, we talked about Father Cromley. Father Cromley has a very cool leadership training event in Colorado at a cool little ranch in the mountains, and that's called Audeo. They've both taken a 3-day Audeo class in Colorado and have evolved and grown as leaders. But that doesn't happen if you say, okay, I'm retiring next year, let's cram all this stuff in. It's taken 9 years to get to this particular point, and we can see the finish line now.
I love that. And what's interesting is, first of all, start early, but also then how this all ties together is so neat, because succession planning is really about professional development and the growth of your people. I mean, that's really that was your theme from 9 years ago, is how am I going to develop the people to the best leaders that you can? And now you feel so good about it. Just tell me, of the leadership team and why are they so good? What makes them stand out? Why do you feel so good about the ability to be successful in this succession plan?
Well, it goes back to that discussion we had before about hire good people that fit your culture. These people I'll call it inherited when I started. They were all with the organization already. But, it was almost like the good Lord put me in an organization with the right kind of people so that I didn't have to get over that hurdle too. There were so many fantastic people here, many of whom are in different seats today than they were when I started 9 years ago, because they had talents that we just needed to find the right seat for them. So I'm confident. They're experienced, they're trained, but again, it starts with they're the right kind of people that will make the right kind of decisions for the people of the organization and not in a selfish manner at all, it'll never happen.
I love the conviction that the business is in good hands. And look, you should be proud of the fact that that's not an easy thing to do. I mean, that takes a lot of work to prepare for. And you put in the time, not just to, give them the strategy, but to give them the skills and the professional development and just interpersonal development, the faith, the courage, all the things that you've done. So Doug, if you step back and reflect, just think about everything you're doing. How does what you do, how does it make you feel?
I don't want to sound like some old fuddy-duddy, but it's very satisfying to watch the growth of the team, which results in the growth of the company. And so therefore the company can do things like support its people, support the community that we live in, help others with examples. It's not just myself. There are a number of our people that serve on boards around the area that try to contribute to make this a good area to live in, and it is. And it's our duty, our responsibility to make sure that continues to happen. So there's a lot of satisfaction in that itself. That's really what it's about.
Doug, I love the passion, and I love the fact that you said, you did not say the growth of the company leads to the growth of people. You said the growth of the people, development of the people leads to the growth of the company. If there's one thing, so Tim Kite, who we both are familiar with, leaders create the culture. You've done that drives the behavior that gets the results, right? We get results from developing people and culture. That's the number one job of any leader. You're doing it, Doug. Congratulations. If you step back and you reference a couple of books here, as I said, you're a wizard when it comes to books and quotes and things like that. One or two of the most impactful books that you've ever read?
Well, the first business book I ever read that was very impactful to me, because I was probably 25 years old and highly competitive, and I challenge anybody to be any kind of contest for anything it was, because I was fueled by winning contests and having success, and really wasn't about us as much as it was about me. And something that really helped me with that was Stephen Covey wrote a book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Most people know it. It was on New York Times bestseller list for years, not just months. And there were some real nuggets in there that I needed. There's 7 habits, but there are 3 or 4 of them that really made a impression on me. One was begin with the end in mind. I was 100 miles an hour on whatever was in front of me. The begin with the end in mind helped me with things like, I want to get in shape, but I hate getting up at 5:30 in the morning and working out. I'll do that some other day. Begin with the end in mind is I want to be in shape. I got to get up at 5:30 in the morning, do things. That's one example, but there's hundreds of those. Think win-win really helped me in my sales career. Sales can be dog eat dog. I'm going to win, he's going to lose. And the more I thought win-win about what's the best thing for the customer and the best thing for my organization, and was able to communicate that, the more I won. So it wasn't about me winning, they losing. It wasn't about them winning, me losing. When we did discussions about win-win, my sales career took off. So that was a big thing for me right there. I didn't understand that before I read that. The other one is seek first to understand, then to be understood. I was doing a lot of trying to be understood and thinking people will understand. I spent a lot more time trying to understand what others were saying and how that related to what we were talking about. And once I understood what they understood, then we could have a good discussion. That was a big one. The last one, which is habit number 7, sharpen the saw. I'm a huge reader. The people around here will tell you that. My family goes to bed about 9 o'clock, and from about 9 to 10:30 every night, I'm reading. Whether it's about leadership, whether it's about industry things happening, whatever it is. And at 7 o'clock the next morning, I fire off about 8 to 10 emails of things that I've read about the night before. So everybody knows they're getting emails from Doug early in the morning because he was up reading the night before. That's sharpen the saw to me. And I don't know, even when I retire, I'm going to be doing those kind of things because I enjoy staying up to date with what's going on.
Yeah. Doug, there's so much wisdom just in the last 3 minutes. That's unbelievable. And the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, is a phenomenal book. You said one of the earliest business, and this is not a business book only. This is really a leadership book. And there's so much here that it can apply to every single area of life. For sure, it helps with business, leadership development, all those things. So Doug, this has been absolutely fantastic. I enjoyed every minute of it. I knew that this was going to be a great conversation. There was no doubt. Thanks so much for coming on. Where can people find out more about you and your company?
Well, website, www.sparealuminum.com. We have a marketing person who's fantastic, where you check Spare Aluminum on LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, whatever it is you use. There's a lot of information out there about us. It's not hard to find things about Spare Aluminum products. We got good people that are putting that information out there.
Absolutely, Doug. Doug, again, thanks so much. We hit so many different wonderful topics, so much wisdom shared. I appreciate it so much. And most importantly, I just appreciate the passion for what you're doing. You can feel it when we're having a one-on-one conversation. We could feel it in this discussion as well. Doug, thanks so much.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you for what you're doing. You mentioned Tim Kite earlier. That was one of my favorite podcasts you had. I learned so much from that. So even an old guy can learn new tricks. And I appreciate what you do, because I learned from the things you do also.
Well, I appreciate you just being a student, and you're calling yourself an old guy. I don't know about that, but you can hear at Doug's self-proclaimed old age, okay, not mine, just to be clear to the listeners, he is hungry for learning and hungry for growth still. And I think that's so important. Doug, thanks so much.
Yep. Thank you, Phil.